Hello again, friends. It is April 1st, which means that it is time for my March reading a wrap-up video. In my last video, I only read one book and it was an audiobook, and I said that I probably wouldn't get much reading done this month either because I'm so busy with school, and I had a big giant project to do, so I did only finish one book this month. And it's okay because it was very quickly added to my favorite books list because it was so good. It is the book that I mentioned in the last video that I said I would not give the title of because I was so excited to read it. Okay. It is The City Beautiful by Aden Polydoros. Polydoros. See? So this book I picked up because I do a little thing on my library's Instagram page where I feature a new book every Monday, and this was one of the books that I happened to pick up. I picked this one up to feature because I was doing so many features for romance books, and specifically LGBT romance books, without even realizing that this one looked very different from the ones that I was choosing. It's very dark red, almost steampunky cover, so I figured there's no way this is going to be anywhere close to an LGBT romance. I'll use this one. And then I sat down to type up my little summary of it, and it's literally a gay romance, so that's just how my life is. I will say that I used this sunflower bookmark that my friend Kelly crocheted for me. I randomly decided to use this one for this book, and it ended up matching perfectly because sunflowers play a big scenery role in this book. So that's funny. Also, I recently got a book talk mystery pack from Of Aspen, which I have done an Of Aspen mystery box unboxing video, but in that mystery box I got this book journal. So I have all my notes for this specific book written down, so I will be referring to this. Also, I got these brass bookmarks, which are so fun because I used them to pick out like specific quotes that I liked. So I will refer to those quotes as well. Okay, so about this book. This is it's very much a mix of many genres. Most notably, it is like a Jewish folktale, I guess. I am in no way Jewish, and I'm not very familiar with the Jewish culture or religion or anything really like that other than what most people probably know. So I learned a lot reading this book, specifically about like Jewish funerals and like burials and things like that, as well as obviously like Jewish folklore, because that's kind of what this book is about. This book deals very heavily with death and understanding death, so if you're not into that, I do not recommend this book. Okay, I guess I'll give a summary of the book. I haven't done that yet. So this book is about a boy named Alton. I've just filmed for 15 minutes talking about this book, went to watch it back, and I pronounced the main character's name completely wrong. Not even pronounced, that wasn't even his name. And I'm sorry, that's so embarrassing. His name is Alter, with an R at the end, not an N. I don't know why I called him Alton, like Alton Brown, the chef. That is not his name, Alter. And that's embarrassing that I got that wrong because his name is so important. Like, his name is literally like a metaphor for, like, the whole book is about his name. I'm such an ass. I'm sorry. His name is not Alton, his name is Alter. Okay, continue. Just ignore that I say that throughout this video. If my pronunciation is bad, it's because like a lot of this book had like Yiddish terms that I don't know Yiddish, so I don't know how to pronounce them. So I think his name's pronounced Alton, A-L-T-E-N. It's about Alton. He's about 17, 18, and he lives in Chicago alone, and he's an immigrant from Romania, and his mother and two twin sisters are back home in Romania, and he's saving up money to bring them to America. He had come to America with his father, who unfortunately died, and it's kind of traumatizing for him, and he's still living with the trauma of that. Throughout the entire book, he's still dealing with the trauma of his father's death. So then he's doesn't have any money. He's very poor. He doesn't have a very good job. It takes place in, this is important, it takes place in 1893, so it's very, I don't know the word, it's very old-fashioned, sure. So Chicago, 1893, during the World's Fair. The setting is very beautiful. The way that they like, well, I don't know how to say it, because he kind of gets transported into different worlds, and there's one scene that's just so pretty, like talks about different cities within Chicago. I don't know how to explain it. You'd have to read it to understand. Anyways, so Alton's roommate Yakov, who I believe is a Jewish boy from Russia, gets murdered. And it's hinted in the beginning that Alton had a bit of a crush on Yakov, but they didn't have a relationship, and then he gets murdered. So, and then they talk about other Jewish boys that are being murdered in the neighborhood, in the city. So Alton and Rizel, I believe that's how you pronounce her name, come together to figure out why these Jewish boys are being killed, because the police are just brushing it off as accidents when it's obviously a anti-Semitic murder. So they spend a good portion of the book tracking, like going after different clues to figure out who's behind these murders. And then Alton meets up with an old friend of his named Frankie, who he hasn't seen in a number of years, and clearly there's some discomfort between them, and it's not really talked about much when they first re-encounter each other. But as it goes on, we realize that they have a very important past with each other. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's just so good. So it's like a murder mystery fantasy. Oh, I forgot the biggest I forgot the biggest part of this book. So the way that Jewish folklore is brought into this book is that Alton is possessed by the Dybbuk of Yakov, which is Yakov's like remaining spirit, because he has unfinished business. So Yakov possesses Alton, and Alton starts like seeing Yakov's old memories, and they're like basically forming into one person, which isn't good because Alton would no longer exist if Yakov took over his body. So the book is mostly about Yakov inside Alton, like possessed Alton, trying to figure out who killed Alton and the other Jewish boys, and also going into Alton's past with Frankie and kind of rekindling their relationship. I'm not going to spoil anything. However, about like probably page like 300, someone dies. And it's like, oh, that should be the end of the book, right? But there's like 150 more pages. So I'm like, there's no way 150 pages is just filler at the end of the book. So it was a big twist that I personally was not expecting. I really enjoyed that part. Let me get my notes out. So I rated this 5 stars, and like I said, I immediately added it to my list of favorite books on Goodreads, which there's not that many books on there, so that means this one's really good. I recommend it to literally everybody because it was just so unique and interesting, and I feel like even if, because I don't really read fantasy that much, and I'm not Jewish, so I wouldn't be like the person to pick this up, if that makes sense, but I loved it, and I learned so much from it, so I feel like anybody could really gain something from reading this book. Yeah, so unique story, lots of twists that I really didn't expect, to be honest. Oh yeah, so like I said, halfway through it seems like the story's over, but it's not, which I really enjoyed because, I don't know, I just wanted to keep reading. I wanted to keep reading more. I loved all of the characters. Like, Alton was so built up. Like he had there were so many facets to him, and you could really get a grasp of who he is and what he believes and what's important to him, which I think is really cool to have learned so much about one character in one book, you know? And Frankie too, we learn a lot about Frankie's character, and even Rizel, she's more of a secondary character, but we learn a lot about her. I feel like the characters were really well developed, and they were just so likable. Oh yeah, okay, I have one note about something that I wish did happen at the end, but I'm not gonna say because it is a big spoiler. Yeah, so I learned a lot about Jewish culture and religion, most notably, like funerals and different aspects of that, which is so different than my culture. One thing that I did not really like was that there was so many different languages being used, and I don't mind like the Yiddish slang, if that's what it is. And there is a glossary at the back of the book that defines these terms. But there was a lot of like Russian sentences that were not written in Russian alphabet, but in like anglicized. You know what I mean? But they didn't define what that meant. So a lot of the time I was just Googling it, and it meant like kill me or kill him and stuff like that, like basic sentences, but I feel like it would have made sense to translate them in the book so the reader wouldn't have to go look it up later. Okay, those were most of my likes and dislikes. I will say, big giant trigger warning, this book discusses rape, murder, and it's very gory. And there's a very large portion of this book is spent talking about like slaughterhouses, like slaughtering animals for meat, and it's really gross. It's very gory, it's really gross, and it's just grimy, like it makes my skin feel all gross. But it's like part of the ambiance of the time. And okay, so now I'm going to go over what quotes that I saved in this book. Okay, so first quote I saved, I just thought that it sounded very pretty. Well, they're talking, okay, I'll just read it to you. Yakov's skin held an ashy pallor, his dark hair a stiff bramble. A cloudy film blanketed the brilliant blue of his eyes. There was dirt on his lips, dirt in his hair. A livid bruise necklaced his throat. I just love that sentence. A livid bruise necklaced his throat. It just sounds so pretty, even though they're talking about his dead body. Doesn't that sound nice? Okay, moving on. This one quote I really liked. This was from, I believe Frankie said this. If it's wearing a nice suit and a golden watch, even a monster could walk among us. Which is very true. If you read this book, that's pretty much how it goes. And then, moving on. Okay, Rizel said this one to Alter. There's no reason why your father died, but maybe, just maybe, there's a reason you survived. That just is so nice. That was such a nice thing of her to say to him. Especially when he's still dealing with the trauma of his father's death. What a great friend she is. Oh, this is a good one too. Kind of same vibe. That's how life is, Frankie said. You're breathing, so you have to keep going, even when it doesn't feel like you're still alive. That's inspirational, Frankie. That's some good stuff. And then this last quote, I don't know if I should share it. It's a bit of a spoiler. I'm not gonna say it. Page 315 is chef's kiss. Beautiful. Okay, that's all I really have to say about this book. I just checked out 2 books from the library the other day that I kind of want to read, and I do have other books that I want to read, but I'm just such a bad reader. Who knows? Who knows what'll come of my April reading wrap-up. I'm almost done with the semester, I think, and then I'll definitely be reading more in the summer. So, April, May, yeah, so like, my May wrap-up might be better than my February, March, April wrap-ups. I will hopefully be reading more. So I highly, 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 highly recommend that you read this book. And if you have read this book, please just talk to me about it. I want to see if I want someone to draw Alton and Frankie, Alter, sorry. I just want to see them in, I mean, I can visualize it, like, okay, I don't, okay, I'm done talking about this. Okay, bye!